Right, good evening everyone. How are you all doing? Hopefully you've been having a good day. I know I certainly have been. It's been a fairly relaxing day, but some good things happened today. Not that any of you probably actually care. As few of you know, I support Borussia Dortmund, and we finally beat our curse and managed to beat Bayern Munich at Bayern Munich Stadium. It hasn't happened since 2018, so that was a nice surprise today. Hopefully, other surprising good things have been happening for you lot. And first thing we need to do is we need to paint some minis. So first up is to get the painful thing out of the way and prime these guys yellow. So what's happened between this stream and last stream is I have somewhat zenithal shaded these guys. So there's a black to very slight brown to this off-white colour on them, because I need these guys to be pale in like a different way to how you do an Imperial Fist, despite the fact we are moving on to Avalon Sunset as the first yellow colour. Coincidentally, how I'm painting these guys would be how I'd recommend you paint Lamenters. And that's something I want to talk to you guys about later on in the stream as well. Hopefully the camera won't be cutting out randomly during the stream, that would be really awkward. So, alright, let's get some yellow on our boys of Mantis Warriors. Let's start with Sergeant. Hey Hamish, how's it going? And yeah, no, they're looking a bit more yellow than someone's orange marines, aren't they? Yeah, it is quite a large chunk of resin, isn't it? Typhon's base. Didn't quite prepare enough yellow. That's awkward. I think no, I'm doing too much. I need to put a bit less in. No, apparently not. And yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk about today, chat, was the new Horus Heresy supplement that's coming out, or has come out. Is it available today, or is it for pre-order today? But you know, for Beta Garmin campaign book. So the rules for Shattered Legions leaked. I really like how they're described and like how the rules work. And I think it's going to be a really interesting and fun way to do thematic armies. Each legion trait is split into 3 things: a major, a minor, and a floor. So if you have the major, well, the majority, so yeah, if you have the majority, you get 1 quirk. If you have the minor, you get a different quirk. If you have Also, a minority, you also get the floor. Or is it a majority gets the floor? Basically, if you mix your squads together, so for example, you have like for like an army, which I'd be readily able to do. You have some Death Guard. Let's grab more of my half-painted Death Guard boys. Seven. Okay, so ignore the fact that the sergeant's unpainted, but this is a tactical squad, right? We won't wait for a second. So in this squad, we have 7 Death Guard and 3 Emperor's Children. This squad would gain the majority Death Guard Legion trait and the minor Emperor's Children trait. Assuming that majority of the Death Guard are killed off, then it would be majority Emperor's Children, minor Death Guard trait. And you calculate this at the beginning of each phase for a squad. If someone were to kill all of the Emperor's Children in the squad, then the only trait left would be the Death Guard one, which, to avoid people just, stacking the abilities, they'd only get the minor Death Guard trait because there isn't a majority for them to have over any other legion in that squad. It's relatively complex, to be honest. So you kind of have to keep a note of like which legions are from what, which legionaries are from what legions. And each squad will have, benefits and drawbacks depending on what squad they are from. So you're kind of encouraged to build squads to the strengths of specific legions in your force. And you have to have at least 2 different legions being mixed together in a Shattered Legion's force. Which brings me on to the question. Would you rather see a Istvan-free traitor Shattered Legion, in quotation marks, Shattered Legion, or would you want to see a Badab War Shattered Legion force? So the Istvan 3, that would be Emperor's Children, Death Guard, World Eaters, and Sons of Horus. Or for the Badab War, it'd be Mantis Warriors, Lamenters, Astral Claws, and Executioners. I wouldn't be doing a loyalist Istvan free army. Fuck that. No soul targets here. So Mantis Warriors were boys we're focusing on at the moment. Here. Green and yellow boys are a White Scar successor. That's all about guerrilla tactics, hit and run tactics, all about being stealthy, covert guys, but not in the kind of way of like Raptors and Raven Guard. These guys will shoot first, annihilate you in close combat with knives. The Contemptor Dreadnoughts get the minor Legion benefit for their as individuals. So a Emperor's Children Contemptor will have the Emperor's Children minor Legion trait. A Sons of Horus one will get the minor Sons of Horus one. They won't get the floor or the major from the other Contemptors in their lands. Well, talent, sorry. I'm going to assume I'm playing the Tank Squadron, but I didn't check. Well, I'm not really sure you'd be running many tank-heavy units in a Shattered Legion force. That's kinda against the point. Not really. Unless you find ways to really min-max certain units, the major and minor rules and the floors seem pretty underpowered. They're not gonna be I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me as dear god, that's gonna be a horrific combination. It's going to be difficult to find units that really, abuse the system. And then also, there's a very easy counter to Shattered Legions. A really, really, really easy one. As just a hint on screen on how you easily counter Shattered Legions. There's something you could bring to really, really, really quickly fuck up a Shattered Legions meta list. I mean, generally speaking, bringing Imperial Fist is kind of a solution to everything in the Horus Heresy still. But no. The snipers. Anything that allowed you to have the precision... the precision special rule? I can't remember the name of it now. Precision shot. There you go. Anything with precision shot will very, very, very rapidly take apart a Shattered Legion force, because all you do is just kill all the individuals of a specific legion. And then, boom, suddenly, they're not benefiting from the major legion trait anymore, because they're the only legion left in that unit. And on a squad-to-squad basis, like an over army, like say, like for me, like I bring Emperor's Children and Alpha Legion, which is my first edition army. I'm not going to be able to benefit from either the Emperor's Children or the Alpha Legion major Legion tactics for that unit if you kill all of the other legionaries in it. Which puts them on a squad-to-squad basis worse off than if they were just playing an Alpha Legion detachment with Emperor's Children allies or Emperor's Children with Emperor's Children with Alpha Legion allies. I don't know. The Thousand Suns still seem quite powerful from the games I've seen and played. What's the Death Guard Legion trait? I can't recall them from the top of my head, and I'm not going to show them off because I don't have the actual book. I've only perceived leaks. Yeah, I don't have a copy of the book to go through. It kind of seems like, generally speaking, from what I remember, the Alpha Legion traits for Shattered Legions are quite interesting. It's one of the ones I do remember. Is if the Alpha Legion are a Shattered, I think, so part of Shattered Legion as being major, or is it a minor? Then the unit becomes shrouded if there's an enemy unit closer. Well, one of your units closer to the enemy than the one that's being shot at. Which could be a really good way to just give an edge to support teams. They get shrouded because you've got an assault squad right up in the face of the enemy. The downside is, and the flaw to the Alpha Legion, because I memorized that one as well, is that if there's Alpha Legion in the squad, then the other Legion must die first. So in my Emperor's Children Alpha Legion squad hybrids, the Emperor's Children characters must be chosen first before I'm allowed to remove any of the Alpha Legion units. Which is both a blessing and a curse, and it's a really interesting flaw. Because it means I focus on, putting the good shit on the Alpha Legionaries, and sacrifice the other Legionaries in order to keep it effective. It's still, a precision shot is still going to negate that because I don't get to choose. Does mean I get to bust out some old units like this guy. One of my Alpha Legion operatives in my Emperor's Children army. I need to update the colour scheme a bit. You can see the colour shifting paint, the blue sticking through the Emperor's Children colours. Yeah, it seems a lot more effective than first edition, because first edition genuinely was just this squad acts as this legion for purposes of gameplay. Yeah, but that, Ben, is that part of the Shattered Legion traits? Let's put those boys back a moment. Let's bring out Alfarius whilst we're talking about Alpha Legion shenanigans. We still need to crack on with him. Where did I put the server? Ah, there we go. And Psychos might be a bit bolder for a moment until a sniper picks full characters from the squad and use all Legion traits and just being basic troops. It's not good anymore. Yeah. I mean, previous edition, Thousand Suns were quite overpowered. Anything to nerf them is a good balancing change. Yeah, the thing is, the Thousand Suns are incredibly strong even without their Oh yeah, we're listening to music by White Bat Audio, and he's put some really good mixes up since we kind of stopped listening to his music for a little while. Yeah, if you want a link to the YouTube channel whose music we're using, type in !music. Can't really see what I'm doing right now, but overall finish of this model is a little bit more important. Trying to do all the silver with Ambrose. The thing is, that's never really occurred to me. It's just how much silver there actually is on Alpharius. Well, I suppose you kind of need to make sure they have all that trim because, you know, when Praetors are as big as that one Imperial Fist one was, you might get confused. Actually, I really need to see a size comparison between that old Tartaros Imperial Fist Praetor and Lorgar. I think that'll be really entertaining comparison. Right, put our fires to the side again. It's time to continue with the Mantis Warriors. I think they should be dry enough now. I want to do a little bit of an experiment. So a bit of a lore like background to the Tranquility camouflage. There are 2 planets in Tranquility, which are, as far as we know, inhabited, and that the Mantis Warriors have bases on. The first one is Tranquility 2, which is a desert planet. And then there's Tranquility 3, which is their, like, home planet, in quotation marks, where the largest of their multiple bases is. And Tranquility 3 is a jungle death world. It's like a really interesting little system. And this camouflage is described as being the Tranquility camouflage pattern. And I'm really not sure what planet it's meant to be for. Is it meant to be the desert camouflage? Or is it the jungle camouflage? The reason why I'm unsure is that it's the yellow and black colour scheme on screen. It kind of reminds me of some of the weird, like, tiger pattern camouflage the Americans used in the Vietnam War. But it does also look like it, you know, it does kind of look like it would be suitable for a desert environment as well. Like, you have to remember, this is a Rogue Trader piece of artwork. Which has, you know, was created long before the lore for Tranquility was actually written. Because Tranquility, in terms of like the planets, are an invention of Forge World. But yeah, it does actually kind of lean itself into a question, though. What planet should I theme my Mantis Warriors around? The desert or the jungle? Yeah, should we go for a jungle theme or a desert theme for the Mantis Warriors? Because both are correct. And it could be either. So yeah, so one thing I want to do with the Mantis Warrior army is also do an allied detachment of Planetary Defense Force troops, so Imperialis Militia. And obviously they're going to be significantly more impacted in terms of color schemes and themes than the Marines themselves. That also plays into this. Oh yeah, that's one of the things, right? Where on earth do I get good-looking jungle fighting models? Because, yeah, I can tell you for a fact I'm not buying catechins. So yeah, I suppose some lore on like the planets, because I was doing a bit of reading before stream, like back reading volume 10 of the Imperial Armor books, which is book 2 of the Bad Ab War series. And to be honest, the Battle for Tranquility 2, the Desert World, kind of just reminded me of Dune and the Battle for Arrakis. Just, I guess, in alternative timeline where the Harkonnens win, I guess. So the Battle for Tranquility 2 is basically the Flame Falcons. It's a Flame Falcon for Firehawks, there you go. The Firehawks repeatedly getting their asses kicked, trying to penetrate the desert to find the secret bases of the Mantis warriors and expel them, whilst also trying to fight off the locals, who are nomadic tribes of people who somehow live out in the deserts, which kind of bewilders the Imperial forces. And them and the Mantis warriors are just a massive thorn in the side of the Loyalists. And it's only with the changing of the guard and the deployment of the Carcharodons to Tranquility that the Mantis warriors are finally kind of pushed out of Tranquility. Tranquility 2, that is. Because they have a very rapid change in tactics. Instead of like trying to hunt down the Mantis warriors specifically, the Carcharodons go specifically for the population of Tranquility 2, hunting down and destroying the local population, knowing full well that the Mantis warriors will try and come to their aid, and basically forcing engagements and guarantee that the Mantis warriors will actually fight, and forcing them out into the open, following their duty and honor to protect the locals. And it's during these engagements, during the battle against the Carcharodons, which the chief librarian of the Mantis warriors, Hazra Redif, steps up and takes charge. He's referred to as the Dust Prophet because of his uncanny ability to be able to see into the future and seemingly predict things before they happen, leading himself, his Mantis warriors, and groups of the locals in a very effective resistance against the Carcharodons. Scoring minor victories and helping to push back the Carcharodons somewhat, enough that people of Tranquility can evacuate and escape. And it's only towards the end of the campaign, once the as many of the civilians are left as possible are able to find safety, that the Mantisaurus start to actually evacuate themselves. Although many kind of defy Redith's orders and stay fighting, trying to get revenge against the Carcharodons. The thing about the Bad Ab War is, how do you define good guys? And this is why the Bad Ab War is by far my favourite conflict in all of 40k. It's like, how do you define good people? Because by most like normal depictions and judgment of moral, the Mantis Warriors are the good guys. They do everything right. They, want to do their job as best as they can. They take every action to try and make sure that they can do their job as good as possible, and are very, very moral and duty-bound to protect those they pledge to protect, and try to keep to their promises as much as possible. Meanwhile, all of the chapters that are involved in the all of the chapters which were sent to fight against the Maelstrom Warders, so to fight against Lufthuron's forces, are all irredeemable cunts, is the most polite way I can describe them. The Carcharodons, they show up and just commit mass genocide after mass genocide after mass genocide. They just genocide their way to victory. The Red Scorpions are definitely not Nazis. The Sons of Medusa show up and attack a nearby uninvolved Forge World and loot all of its shit, before showing up right at the end for a participation trophy. After being kicked for being AFK from Bad Ab War, they show up again uninvited towards the end, just so they can try and loot Bad Ab Primus during the final battle. It's kind of funny. The Firehawks are only there because they're pissed off with the Mantis Warriors, and they just want to score some points against them and flex on them. And they're not actually there to help anyone out, they're just there because they're just very, very, very bitter, petty people. I think the Howling Griffins and... The Howling Griffins are the only ones who don't do anything sketchy or barbaric on the Loyalist side. Because even the Salamanders who show up aren't exactly good guys. They show up, do a lot of war criming, and do a lot of horrific things to the Space Marines of the Maelstrom Warders. Yeah. The Imperium basically forced the Maelstrom Warders to happen. Yeah. So what happened for Mantis Warriors and the Firehawks is kind of interesting, because basically the Firehawks were trespassing and repeatedly told to get the fuck out of Mantis Warrior space. They're not welcome there, they're not invited, and they have no reason to be there whatsoever. They were repeatedly told, get the fuck off our lawn, or we'll shoot. And the Firehawks were just kind of sat there like, this. Make us. Go on, make us move. Go on. And so for Mantis Warriors, like, well, Cowabunga it is then. And took off their fucking fleet. Like, you guys literally asked for this. And this is like after like a decade of the Firehawks being cunts, basically. Because it extends back to like the whole reason the Badab War happened in the first place. So the Badab sub-sector is part of a greater sector, and the governors in charge of that sector were money-hoarding, resource-stealing twats, who were basically trying to pull as many resources as they could for themselves to sell from their planet so they could make all the money and hoard all the wealth in the sector. The issue is, the sector includes a fucking maelstrom. And the maelstrom was the main hub of activity during this time period for chaos incursions. And so the Lufthuron, the Tyrant of Badab, was trying to pull resources together and try and reorganize the defenses around the maelstrom with what resources he had available to him in order to make an effective defense. During this time, the Charnel Guard, one of the Maelstrom Warder chapters, was withdrawn from the Maelstrom and redeployed elsewhere, putting critical pressure onto the Maelstrom Warders, so that the Maelstrom Warders were completely inequipped and incapable of defending the Maelstrom. So Lufthuron decided to look for inspiration elsewhere as to how to more effectively reorganize and take control of the situation. And so he looked to what's supposedly, or like what most people kind of accept to be, the parent chapter of the Astral Claws, which is the Ultramarines. And saw how the Ultramarines organize things. So they have, you know, basically all the chapters kind of working together as one effective legion. And so he looked to that for inspiration and made a series of reforms to his chapter and the other Maelstrom Warders. So in removing the limit of 1,000 Space Marines because they kind of needed to, reorganizing the Planetary Defense Force and the Imperial Guard regiments and any Forge World defense forces in the nearby area into a centralized command structure underneath himself. So he was, in effect, a War Master. A War Master during this time period of the Warhammer lore is just the name for someone in charge of a crusade, not, you know, a forbidden word that's, you know, only uttered by heretics. So he made himself effectively the War Master, and to make sure that he had as much control and micromanagement as possible of the entire subsector, he declared himself a tyrant and upheld and just got rid of the political system in the Badab cluster. So that he was the single point of authority in charge of everything, so that he could better manage the defenses of the Maelstrom Gate. I think that's what it's called. But yeah. So he made himself the Tyrant of Badab and put in place some really effective reforms. Coincidentally, they look fairly similar to what Guilliman would later on do during his reformation of the Codex following his return. Yeah, he's doing what was best for the Imperium, not just his men and the sector. And it should be noted that this happened a while before the Badab War actually happened as well, that he became the Tyrant of Badab. During this time, him and his reformed Astral Claws Legion is a better word to describe at this point, because he had absorbed the successor chapter of the Astral Claws in as well. Actually went to the aid of the Black Templars and carried them through a crusade during this time period as well. Right. I'm trying to also focus on painting this miniature whilst I talk about the lore. And basically, during this time period, and it's like, this is how it gets back to the Mantisaurus striking first. During this time period, whilst all these reforms are happening, the planetary governors of the sector were starting to get a little bit pissed off because Luftiron was starting to delay and, you know, like, fudge the numbers a bit for what the Badab sector was meant to actually provide the sector governors. And they started to get a bit pissy because, you know, they weren't getting all the resources or money they expected to be getting. And Luftiron continued to just, like, push back, saying, no, look, sorry, this sector's under attack, our systems are being under attack, so we've had to reallocate the resources for our defense and our survival. Hope you understand. We can't really do much else about this right now, we need these resources. And the sector governors were pissed. They did not like that whatsoever. Knowing that there was a bit of a feud between the Mantis Warriors and the Flame Falcons, they decided to call the Flame Falcons. Be like, hey, look, we're having a bit of an issue with the Space Marines in our sector. Could you, like, you know, maybe do a show of force and, you know, maybe talk it out with the Maelstrom Warders, see if you can, like, you know, get them to give us the stuff they, you know, they rightfully should be giving us. Flame Falcon's like, oh, abso-fucking-lutely. We're more than happy to go and talk to a Mantis Warriors and get your stuff back. And so, yeah, they went to the Endymion cluster, where the Mantis Warriors reside, and it's like, hey, you over sector governors, a lot of resources and a lot of money. We've been sent here to get it from you. And the Mantis Warriors like, okay, sure, you can try that. 1, we're not giving it to you. 2, you have no authority here. 3, this is our land. 4, get the fuck off it. And if you don't by the count of 5, we're going to take your shit from you. To remind you never to come and attack us again. Because we see this as a provocation. Get the fuck off our land. And, so yeah, the Flame Falcons fucked around and found out. And it was at that point that, you know, tensions really reached a boiling point between the Badab subsector and the sector governors, because their lapdogs had just been fucked up and had half their fleet confiscated from them. And so they just basically panicked and, like, send the Lords of Terror, the High Lords of Terror, a message. We need help. We're having a huge problem with a potential insurrection. Hearing this, the Luftiron was like, really? We're really going to do that? That's kind of silly. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a declaration of succession from the sector, declaring ourselves as our own sector, and send the petition to the High Lords of Terror to explain the situation. Say, hey, look, we firmly believe that the sector governors are completely mishandling the resources and completely, you know, undermining our capabilities to defend this sector and to defend the Imperium from the Maelstrom. We therefore demand the creation of our own sector under our own governmentship, so we can better and more effectively govern the resources and the citizenry of these planets in order to, you know, perform a more effective defense. And the High Lords of Terror said no. Actually, we don't want you doing that, because the sector you're part of is one of the more wealthy and more capable ones. We'd rather continue to have the resources and the Imperial tithe as effectively as they have been already. And splitting it will just completely annihilate the tithe. So no. And in response, they sent a task force of 5 Space Marine chapters to go and deal with the Maelstrom orders by asking them to stand the fuck down and get the fuck out of there. And this resulted in a meeting between the chapter masters of Maelstrom Warders and the leaders of a couple of the Space Marine chapters, sent by the High Lords of Terror, in which a mass assassination happened. No one really knows who tried to assassinate who, but the chapter master of the Mantis Warriors was killed, and of, I think, a couple of the Loyalist Space Marine chapters. And so a Badab War began. And yeah, it's like, when it comes to a lore for the Bad Apple, it kind of annoys me that there's so many memes about tax evading Huron and stuff. It's like, no, he really wasn't. He was effectively the next coming of Gilliman. That's effectively who he was. He was just Gilliman in the year M41. Well, the century M41. About millennia. There we go. Millennia 41. I can do words. And he got punished for trying to do the right things. And this is one of the things I loved about older Warhammer lore, was for people trying to do good, for people trying to do right, and for morally correct things to do, or the logical and sensible things to do, were always punished by an overbearing and evil Imperium that was so caught up in its own way of doing things, and its own paranoia and, you know, delusionment, that it saw anything as outside the status quo as being objectively wrong and horrible and therefore must be punished, no matter how good or how right it was to do that thing. Recently, an idea of a pre-platter of Iron Warriors company to get into 7. It's an interesting idea, Ben, but it'd be a lot more interesting to have a similar twist going, but with Iron Warrior loyalists, who ended up becoming the, what are they called? The firstborn, not firstborn. The, you know, the first Marines that Belisarius called turned into Primaris. Having a Primaris chapter of Iron Warriors who were loyal during the Heresy, reform, and were just allocated Ultramarine by Cool to kind of hide it. You know, just mask the fact that they're Iron Warriors and that he was fucking around with Traitor Gene Seed. Or maybe some, like, you know, some Iron Warrior, like, citizens or, like, initiates from Olympia, maybe? And you could have them be turned into, or, like, from another Iron Warrior world. You know, a world that the Iron Warriors conquered and that they drew initiates from. Have Belisarius Cool recruit them to turn them into Primaris. And so a lot of them have the memories of being children on the worlds that the Iron Warriors oversaw. You know, they planned to grow up as being Iron Warriors. And then the Heresy happened, and they found themselves being whisked away into a secret place in Mars, it turns out, in the end, to become Primaris Space Marines. They wake up 10,000 years later, not as the Iron Warriors they expected to become, but as an entirely new force, painted in a different colour scheme, and then thrown out into the world in the year M42. You know, there's no Heresy, there's no Iron Warriors around. What are the Iron Warriors? How do you know about the Iron Warriors? And then they just have to deal with that fact, and, you know, then have their chapter master petition Gilliman for his counsel, and have them explain, like, sorry, my liege, my Lord Primarch, what the fuck? Have them have the crisis. So, like, we were destined to be Iron Warriors. We grew up, we were trained, we were groomed from a young age to become Iron Warriors. And now we've woken as Space Marines, as part of the Imperium, which we are eternally thankful for. But we are not Iron Warriors. What are we? Have that be their crisis of faith. That would be a really cool concept and avoid you having to go through time shenanigan nonsense. It's like, as much as, like, I've fallen out of love with the Warhammer 40,000 lore of late, Tetrarch Felix is still one of my favourite characters for 40k. Because he is, you know, he was a teenager or a young adult during the Horus Heresy. He grew up, you know, in that world, and then he awoke into the 40k universe. and it's like really interesting reading his perspective on things. So that'd be like a really interesting way to like, you know, expand on that idea, that concept that he provides us, just with a Traitor Legion stock. I mean, you could even have a mix, you know, you could have some Iron Warriors. Like, it could be that, you know, as Belisarius Cool actually did recruit some Iron Warriors for his project, for the Primaris project, using them, just like slowly peeling them out of the Black Shields and Terror. Like, you're coming with me. I need you for something. And he turns them into Primaris, and then as Gilliman starts to become even more and more against the idea of there being traitor Primaris, he then goes and recruits a bunch of civilians from previously Iron Warrior worlds and uses them as a justification. Like, oh no, yeah, no, they're all Olympians. Yeah, they're not Iron Warriors, they just happen to be from Iron Warrior worlds. We just needed a large group of recruits, and this was one of the few planets Lionel Johnson didn't annihilate, so we have a huge ground surplus amount of recruits here to feed into the Legion, so I took some for my Primaris project. And just used that to hide and mask the idea of the Iron Warriors, but he did actually turn into Primaris. So, you know, you could have a core command structure of actual Iron Warriors to your Primaris chapter, with recruits from Iron Warrior worlds, painted and labeled as being a different chapter of origin, and have them being like, no, you're an Iron Warrior, and you're from Olympia. We're Space Marines. We are Iron Warriors, right? But we're not. We're a chapter. We're also not Astartes as we remember them. We're not the Legiones Astartes anymore. We're Adeptus Astartes and Primaris Astartes. We're physically no longer like how we once were, or you once were. What the fuck are we doing? You know, I think that would be a cool idea. And I'm just kind of like making up a backstory for you, but I think it would be a really cool one to explore. And I'm definitely not procrastinating doing what I have to do. This is gonna suck. Time to try and do the weird leaf pattern. Where's the Tamiya pot I covered in blue tech? I'm definitely not procrastinating. No procrastination here. I'm not too worried about it looking bad at this stage, because I'm going to be doing some chipping to this, and also we're going to be putting some weathering over this as well. I'm just, at the moment, just trying to block in where I think the main areas should be. Hey Solitaire, how's it going? Yeah, it's also why I was asking whether or not you guys would prefer to see jungle or desert as a theme. Well, you've missed basically a mini podcast of me talking about a Badab War lore. So you could have been enjoying that and not being bored. Well, the thing is, I need to vary it in shape and stuff. Because you probably noticed it's not all just like 3 leaves, some of it's like 4. And it looks like there's patches where it's kind of striped. Probably not. As much as I'd like there to be a new Bad Ab War story, they can't tell it anymore, is the issue. Unless they like really commit to like making like an entire series of books post Horus Heresy, using Horus Heresy as a foundation, I don't think they will. Because the narrative of 40k is so different now. Um, Unfortunately, Alan Bly is the person who's mainly accredited. So we won't be getting, if we ever get anything more for Bad Up War, um, it it will probably never be to the quality of the Imperial Armor books. On a positive note, Ben, be glad that it doesn't match the old Black Book's price. Because I think that's definitely an advantage. I should probably paint in the so I have an idea of how much black there is actually on the model already. Still waiting for Tabby to read the Horus Heresy books. Rudy and Hurt Ogrim. Wait, what? Wait, you suggesting I do like an audiobook or something? As well as the Horus Heresy. Copy reading this Horus Heresy books 1. He'll fly to the Eisenstein like it's a bedtime story. Why does it have to be the Garrow and Loken books? That was ASMR. That is cursed, but also really funny. No, why am I even thinking about doing it? No. Hey, no, I'll tidy that one up later. Alright, I think that's enough. Though obviously I need to tidy it up. But I think that's enough of the weird camouflage pattern on this guy to get the point across, right? Yeah, I need to go back and tidy up with some Avalon Sunset. And also need to do the chipping and then the washes and stuff, but I think that's a good like base to the black pattern. Yeah, we're not going for finished results just yet. We're trying to like more or less like ink in and like suggest like where the pattern is. No, there's a 3D printed shoulder for Mantis Warrior, so simple one. All of the weird little stripes would have. I'm not a fan of lying. But also, if anyone pays attention for like 5 seconds, they'll realise I'm painting it over a decal, a raised area of the model. Yeah, that's fair, Max. There is a guide on how to freehand the Mantis Warriors chapter symbol out there. I just can't be bothered. Also, I have the luxury of a 3D printer, so. Yes, actually. Not incredible ones, but I do have a couple for Mark 4, Mark 2, and Mark 3. If you have the space to use a 3D printer safely, I'd highly recommend getting one. It's a very useful tool for hobbying, because there's lots and lots of incredible third-party bits which are compatible with Space Marines and stuff. And also just entire armies are just really cool models, like the stuff I've been using to represent Imperial Militia. That's a good way of saying that you're never going to buy one, Max. I actually get around to painting any of the faces of the Emperor's children yet. Do we perpetually just get to the almost finished phase? Oh, actually, as an example, like all of my Emperor's children are on these bases, which are 3D printed. Or, you know, what bases of this style. And yes, I know this is a flea from Battletech, but hey, you get the idea. Yeah, it's definitely going to need to be touched up. A bit of Avalon, which is fine. Going for perfect here. Protection comes later. Alright, I think for now, this is where I'm going to wrap up the stream. Sorry for being a bit quiet for the end of that. Starting to feel a little bit unwell. Not really sure what with. You probably noticed my hands are getting a bit too shaky. So I need to take a break. And considering the other option is painting trim on a mission model, we're just going to wrap up the stream here. Been streaming for a bit longer than... yeah, I think I need to go and get some rest, and we'll probably do a longer hangout stream tomorrow. See how things go, carry on with the Mantis Warriors and Altharius. So I think we'll just carry on doing these two until we I've got them finished. Now, thank you guys for joining me today. As always, if you've enjoyed listening to me talk about Warhammer, you enjoy watching me paint Warhammer, then it's a great idea to hit follow and to hang around with me. I am a huge Warhammer nerd, and love me some 40k and Horus Heresy, so that's why we're kind of combining the two here by making a 40k Horus Heresy army. And yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed watching the progress on Altharius 2. We're getting there with the silver trim. Wow, he looks really, really blue on camera. For me at this angle, he's purple. But just looking at my screen for reference, he's a very blue for you, isn't he? And yeah, if you want to see how he looks when the color appears purple, make sure to join the Discord server, !Discord. On days in which there isn't a set thing for us to do, it's up to my Discord community to vote for what they'd like to see. So, for example, on Tuesday, there's nothing planned, so on Tuesday it will be up to my Discord community to vote for what they'd like to see happen. Whether that's carrying on painting these guys or playing a video game, whatever it is, it's up to them to decide. And finally, if you'd like to see me paint your miniatures for you, not that today's necessarily been a best example of these guys because they look a bit messy, but if you'd like to see me paint minis for you, and then Ko-fi is the best way to commission me, although you can just reach out through Discord, but commissions will be done through Ko-fi. And generally speaking, if you enjoy watching me do this and you want to help me buy the paints needed to paint these models, you can always support me via Ko-fi. As normally, I'd say that all the money going from Ko-fi goes straight back into my hobbying, so I can buy all the paints and all the models and all the stuff I need to build them for you guys to watch. But at the moment, I'm a bit short on rent, so you guys want to keep me roofed? Well, help keep me roofed. It's not up to you guys to keep me in a house, but if you want to help me pay my rent, then consider supporting me via Ko-fi. With the generosity of Hamish and the commissions he's given me, we're actually quite close to actually being able to pay rent properly this month, which is nice. So yeah, if you want to help out with that and contribute towards that, Ko-fi is the best place to do it. Having said that, there's always the soundboard beneath the stream, and obviously subscriptions are always appreciated as well. So with that all said and done, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Sorry for cutting it relatively abruptly, but yeah, I need some rest. So thank you all for joining me, and I'll catch you all tomorrow hopefully. Have a good one.